So I often speak about higher level things because I've always assumed that people that would come and listen to me already had the 101, the initial downloads, it ran through the earlier parts of the gauntlet. But it's come to my attention more and more that while I can somehow weave these giant stories together about very esoteric subjects, and people really can understand and know that what I'm saying has a bunch of truth and integrity to it, that they still don't even have the basics. And so I'll be doing a series here basically on what the fundamentals are, what we need to think about, how do we turn our spaceship on, how do we get our spacesuit in order, how do we get our body in order. And I'd spoken about this the other day and said I don't really talk about the body because the body is the tomb, the temple, and it's the work that's done after the mind. The mind produces the body. And so just by changing your thoughts, well, your habits change. If your thoughts change about what food is and you start eating different food by proxy, just because you start to eat better food, you live in a better body. So this is why people that are aesthetically driven primarily, the internal self is often disguised. This is like women that put makeup on, like too much makeup. That sometimes makeup is great to highlight things and to have fun with, and this is all part of the experience in the dance. But then there's quite a few people that aesthetically build something, and it is actually has it's a barrier to their consciousness and a barrier to spirituality and what the whole adventure in life is, because they get caught up in the physicality of things. So I've always kind of left that to further down the line. And so let's start there though, because there are some things that we need to know about the human body that will actually help to unlock the mind and unlock our experience. And yes, everybody knows they can go to do yoga, but I found that as well to be especially when it's the westernized version, people get too caught up in the physicality of it once again. It becomes an hour-long process. They go and they do yoga, and that's not the truth. Yoga is the entire experience. And so that's why it really needs to be incorporated into the mind. And there's another thing that's happened, and it's this: everybody's wanting to pop open their third eye and have their pineal gland, pineal. It's everywhere. And what is that co-opted by? And are people even familiar with the concept of how many other glands they have in their body? How many other organs? It would be a bad time to open up your pineal gland if your bowels were all tore up and the rest of your organs were, because if, as Savant Bomar suggests, which is almost certainly true, that if your body is just a reflective surface for what's out in front of you, if you turned your third eye on and you were actually seeing out in front of you what was going on internally in your body, if your body was in terrible shape, you probably wouldn't like what you would see. So we also have to realize once again that there's the pituitary gland up there, and there's so many other glands in the body. And what can we do to speed up the process of cleaning all of them to the most basic things we can do well inside of our body? It has to do with your feet or your soul, the soil, and the soul in the sky. If we just remember that the most important thing is the soul. And as I've suggested at length, it seems as though the human experience is building a soul. It isn't. Everybody wants to be, we're one, we're part of this soul. Yeah, you came from there, but you are a spirit. You are a fragmented version of the entirety of the soul. So while you're on the soil, with the sole of your foot connected to the soul of the sun, you're actually building and creating and coming back to the everything, the essence of what the soul is. So what is the process? What's the easiest thing to do in your body? Well, it'd be to put your feet, to connect your feet to the earth, to ground yourself. Grounding with your bare feet on earth is the way to go. And to get into the sun, the sun is your friend. If you can get up in the morning and you have a good enough environment where it's not too cloudy and you can do some sun gazing, that is highly suggested. It's hard to bring these things up to people who are very out of shape, because as I was speaking of in my last video, you won't be ingesting the information. If your body is really dirty, could you imagine someone that's, really 450 pounds and like eats steaks and I'm obviously they're probably not listening to these videos, but if they were and I suggested to go stare at the sun, I don't think that would be a very good idea for them to do. It might hurt them. It might hurt that portal, because their eyeballs are portals, and if the rest of their body is all jammed up anyways, that's not going to be a good thing to do. But for most people, if you are on the path and you're already conscious of things, you're eating a good diet, you're in relatively decent shape, sun gazing is a brilliant idea. And obviously here's some little tricks that usually people make videos of, like the top 10 things of, well, here's some little tricks. Look at the sun through the trees if it's too bright. You can alternate each one of your eyes. And let's start here. If you consider, here's another way, here's a flat earth proof. If the sun was 93 million miles away, it wouldn't matter what time of day you stared at the sun. It would be exactly the same, because it's so far away, right? But obviously, if it's as close as it really is on this flat plane that we live on, the reason that you can stare at the sun in the morning when it's the farthest away is because it's literally the farthest away and you're not getting as much of the direct sun charge. And that's why at noon it's so bright and intense, because it's literally closer to you. And so if you could stare at the sun, you wouldn't want to stare at the sun at noon. It would be too intense. You'd get to a point where you can, and it is said by many that if you can stare at the sun unflinching at noon, you'll be fully charged. And that's going to take, for people, a process that includes you can, depending on where you are, your level of health, see what happens. Go out and stare at the sun in the morning, and people tell you to do it 10 seconds and 20 seconds. I say do what you feel. I don't do it often, but when I do, sometimes I can do it for a very extended period of time, and it doesn't bother me. In fact, it increases my lucidity and my dreams. It does a bunch of things for me. But that is probably due to the fact that I've cleansed so much of my body, and I drink my own golden waters, and I drink distilled water, and my body is pretty clean and clear. So you'll just know. It's just like lifting weights. If you went to the gym, you wouldn't immediately pick up a 300-pound weight. It wouldn't make sense to. You might be able to, so maybe that's your path. But as long as you're cleansed, you should go and take a look at the sun and ground yourself out. It'd be the biggest game-changing thing for you, because what happens as well is you're also participating with the spirit, meaning you're breathing. And the energetic charge, the electrical charge that you're going to be gaining by breathing correctly while looking at the sun and your feet on the earth will change everything. It will change the way your lungs work and function. It'll immediately change your breathing patterns. And that's a little lesson 0, lesson 101, I guess. Get out and in the mornings. Oh, and here I'll just keep doing these little. I'll just turn this in a little bit longer, because somebody had asked me about eating, when to eat. And everyone should, if you can, at this point, depending on where you are in your path, you shouldn't be eating until the sun goes down. You're taking energy away. I don't care what you're eating. I don't care if you're fully vegan, vegetarian, get the shake in the morning. That's not the thing to do. You're interrupting your process of life by, it's called break fast. You're breaking your fast. And you shouldn't break your fast in the morning because it makes you lethargic. What happens when you put something in your stomach? You immediately need to digest it. So any information that you'd be getting from that doesn't come till later anyways. So when you wake up, you don't even have that information. So by looking at it properly, you would eat at sundown, and then you'd go to bed, and you'd wake up, and you would have the energy from that food. That's why you go to sleep, because you've digested the food, and your body's in the process of taking from that food, that material, the energy that you need. And then you wake up in the morning, and there's your energy. You've processed it at night. And because I always have to do this, because I always like to just throw in that 500 level course, you're dealing with different parts of your brain chemistry, your different brain waves, excuse me, that if you get into either theta or delta sleep, and you're going to be in different states of sleep depending on what and when you eat. So we're not going to go too far into that. I'm not explaining exactly how that works right now, but just know that by eating closer to bed, not right before bed, but when sun goes down, that you'll have digested it through your first stage of your stomach, and it'll be going to your organs to do work, and you'll be able to get into different states of consciousness. And so if you're in a delta state of sleep, you're in the deepest, most healing sleep. There's a reason to be in that sleep, and there's also a reason, if people like to get out of body, to be in theta. And there's easier ways to get in theta we'll discuss in the future. So your eating habits should really be, if you're consuming any gross physical object, be at night. If you're going to consume anything during the day, it's going to be juice. It's going to be water. Have a tea. Drink yourself an organic coffee. In fact, don't do coffee. Get into espresso. There's a lot of reasons to get into that. I forget the guy's name, but he did a wonderful video on why espresso is so much better. But yeah, whatever you need to do, just remember, we're getting to this liquid format, and getting to a liquiditarian, you're able to process information easier. So there's 101 plus some advanced concepts for you to meditate on. Feel free to throw me some questions below. We'll, like I said, get over to the reality files, and we're going to start doing maybe some courses over there. And I'm going to get these, all of these kind of products that are going to be pretty awesome online soon, which really next level organite, and some tarot cards that I think are going to amaze everybody. And yeah, it's a bunch of cool things coming on. So chat soon, y'all.